This feels like a big moment. Western complicity in Israel's genocide against the Palestinian people is being denounced by a right-wing newspaper and Conservative MPs in the UK. What does that tell us? It tells us that it's increasingly clear what the judgment of history will be on this grotesque crime, as well as the judgment of the courts. Let's begin with the Financial Times, a pro-business newspaper which has mostly backed the Conservative Party in the last few general elections in the UK, backed Labour last time, reflecting how it believed that Keir Starmer had shifted to a position of defending the status quo, but before that, the Conservative Party over and over again, repeatedly. The editorial, which reflects the official position of the newspaper, is headlined, "The West's Shameful Silence on Gaza." It begins with, after 19 months of conflict that has killed tens of thousands of Palestinians and drawn accusations of war crimes against Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu is once more preparing to escalate Israel's offensive in Gaza. Well, yes, look, technically they are accusations because nobody has been tried and convicted in a court of law yet, despite the International Criminal Court issuing public arrest warrants against Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant for both war crimes and crimes against humanity. It's understood that the ICC will issue further charges and arrest warrants that has been ordered to keep those secret. But it is as obvious that war crimes have been committed by Israel against the Palestinians as it is that the earth revolves around the sun and that autumn follows summer. Every war crime possible has been committed. They have been publicly confessed to and boasted about by Israeli leaders, officials and soldiers. They've been recorded on film, documented by experts and Palestinian journalists who often paid the ultimate price for telling the truth, often alongside their entire families. Amongst legal experts, there's a consensus that war crimes and crimes against humanity have been committed, just as there is a near consensus among genocide scholars that genocide is being committed. It goes on. Let's carry on reading. The latest plan puts Israel on course for full occupation of the Palestinian territory and would drive Gazans into ever-narrowing pockets of the shattered strip. It would lead to more intensive bombing and Israeli forces clearing and holding territory while destroying what few structures remain in Gaza. This would be a disaster for 2.2 million Gazans who have already endured unfathomable suffering. Each new offensive makes it harder not to suspect that the ultimate goal of Netanyahu's far-right coalition is to ensure Gaza is uninhabitable and drive Palestinians from their land. Well, look, there's no reason to speculate about this because the Netanyahu government has simply gone out and said what they intend to do. At the end of March, Netanyahu said publicly that Israel will allow the realization of a Trump plan for voluntary migration. This is the plan, he said. We're not hiding this and are ready to discuss it at any time. No nuance there, no room for interpretation. Now, clearly, voluntary migration is a nonsense. Palestinians don't want to leave their home. Israel has objectively sought to make Gaza uninhabitable, as the Financial Times suggests, with the hope that the survivors feel there is no other choice but to flee, because there are no homes left standing, because the healthcare system is destroyed, because agriculture and food production is destroyed, and aid is not allowed in, that reliable access to clean, fresh water is destroyed, that there is no education system, that there's no plan to offer any reconstruction to offer a future for the people who are living there still. In any case, the Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich simply declared this week, Gaza will be entirely destroyed. Civilians will be sent to the south to a humanitarian zone without Hamas or terrorism, and from there, they will start to leave in great numbers to third countries. There was no subtlety there. From the very start, all you had to do is take the statements issued by Israeli leaders and officials literally, just at their word. But Western media outlets refused to do this. It's like those statements were being issued in a parallel universe as far as the Western media were concerned. If they had done their job, they would have framed their coverage around the often nakedly genocidal statements being issued by the Israeli leadership because they exposed intent. Even now, that does not happen. Now, here is a crucial passage. For 2 months, Israel has blocked delivery of all aid into the Strip. Child malnutrition rates are rising, the few functioning hospitals are running out of medicine, and warnings of starvation and disease are growing louder. Yet the US and European countries that tout Israel as an ally, that shares their values, have issued barely a word of condemnation. They should be ashamed of their silence and stop enabling Netanyahu to act with impunity. Here the Financial Times refers to a straightforward war crime. It is, as they note, an objective fact that Israel has imposed a total blockade on Gaza since the 1st of March. Israel has publicly declared this. It's not a contestable assertion. It's not open to debate. Imposing a total blockade on all the essentials of life, reaching a civilian population, is inarguably a war crime, which is why the Financial Times does not earlier on in this editorial need to refer to accusations of war crimes against Israel. Nonetheless, the Financial Times makes a striking point. Israel's Western allies have issued barely a word of condemnation, and this right-of-centre establishment newspaper, read by city slickers, hedge fund managers and the like, says that Western governments should be ashamed of their silence. The sort of words we have heard for a long time from the platforms of pro-Palestinian protests, now printed as the official position of the Financial Times. It should be noted, of course, that it goes far beyond silence. After all, many of these states have armed Israel to the teeth. They have offered diplomatic support and political support. They have demonized and clamped down on and silenced those who have sought to oppose this genocide. They are not just complicit with their silence, they have directly facilitated this monstrous crime. The Financial Times notes that Trump has acknowledged Palestinians are starving and claims he'll help get food to Gaza, but says, so far, the US president has only emboldened Netanyahu. That deal was struck in which Hamas agreed to free hostages in phases, while Israel withdrew from Gaza and a permanent ceasefire struck. But then Trump announced what the Financial Times described as an outlandish plan for Gaza to be emptied of Palestinians and taken over by the US. Now, come on now. Emptying Gaza of its Palestinians, describing that as outlandish, I think euphemistic is putting it mildly, given the circumstances. Outlandish suggests unfeasible, far-fetched, not practical, rather than a grave crime. Nonetheless, the Financial Times say, in March, Israel collapsed the ceasefire as it sought to change the terms of the deal with Washington's backing. What is disturbing here is just reading this feels like coming up for air, because even this incontrovertible fact has barely been treated as such by other Western media outlets. It goes on. Senior Israeli officials have since said they are implementing Trump's plan to transfer Palestinians out of Gaza. On Monday, far-right Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich said, we're finally going to occupy the Gaza Strip. Okay, so we don't need to suspect anything, do we? I mean, I quoted Bezalel Smotrich's actual full statement from Tuesday. It's an objective fact what they're intending to do. Now, the article goes on to condemn Netanyahu further, noting the renewed onslaught will imperil the lives of Israeli hostages, as well as further undermine Israel's tarnished standing. Well, I think it's fair to say that particular boat has sailed a long time ago. A state which commits genocide in full public view has crossed the Rubicon and is not going to return. Now, the article goes on to rightly critique Arab leaders for being infuriated by Netanyahu, but compromised by Trump's promises of multi-billion-dollar investments and arms deals, demanding Arab states stand up to Israel. The article concludes as follows. The global tumult triggered by Trump has already distracted attention from the catastrophe in Gaza, yet the longer it goes on, the more those who remain silent or cowed from speaking out will be complicit. As I've said all the way through, those with power and influence who have stayed silent are complicit. Those who still support this grotesque abomination were beyond the pale from the start. I mean, they, by this point, should just be regarded as deranged sociopaths. It's the silent who need to be damned as well. Every atrocity in history was made possible by the silent. And the silent does not exclude, when I use that term, doesn't exclude those who say, well, it's also complicated and issue platitudes about how sad it is about the suffering of the Palestinian people. It's those who failed to call a crime what it is, who are still complicit. That still counts as silence, not speaking out about what is actually happening, not defining a crime as a crime. Now, as well as the Financial Times, British Conservative MPs who were previously staunch supporters of Israel have begun to speak out. More than a dozen Tory MPs have broken ranks to demand the immediate recognition of Palestine. And listen to this Tory MP, Mark Pritchard.
Of course, Israel is an important security, trade and democratic partner, but that doesn't give it a blank check. The fact is that 13,000 children have been killed, 25,000 have been injured, maimed, wounded, orphaned, some of them. And for many years, I've been in this house 20 years, I have supported Israel pretty much at all costs, quite frankly. But today, I want to say that I got it wrong. And I condemn Israel for what it is doing to the Palestinian people in Gaza and indeed in the West Bank. And I'd like to withdraw my support right now for the actions of Israel, what they are doing right now in Gaza. Of course, the hostages should be released. Of course, that Israel has the right to exist. Of course, the Israeli people, the Jewish people should have the right to live in peace. But so do the Palestinian people. And I've said it before and I'll say it again, that the life of a Palestinian child is as precious as the life of a Jewish child. And this is this particular moment in time. We've had lots of statements over the last 18 months. This is not only this Parliament's not greatest hour. I'm really concerned that this is a moment in history when people look back where we've got it wrong as a country. Yeah. Can the minister stand up to our friends and allies in the United States and make a strong stand for humanity, for us being on the right side of history, for having the moral courage to lead, not just to follow the United States, and to make a difference? That's why we're all elected here. Let's stand up for life. Let's stand up for all children, not just Jewish children.
This is quite astonishing. He says there straightforwardly he got it wrong, having been a loyal supporter of Israel. This illustrates how people are beginning to realise the savage judgment that will befall all those who fail to do something when they had the chance. You see, MPs of all stripes, Labour, Conservative, and so on, they knew what was happening. They knew what was happening from the beginning. I'm not having this nonsense. I didn't know. How could I have known from the beginning? Now it's all spun out of control, obviously. I didn't sign up for this. I warned at the beginning. I warned at the beginning they'd try and do this, you know. I warned they'd say, well, if I knew then what I knew now, I'd have spoken out. You know, this just went too far. They said what they were going to do, guys. They told you. They were not in any way holding back their intent. They just told the world what they were going to do, and they did it. Within weeks, Gaza appeared a different colour and texture from space because it had been so thoroughly pummeled. This is not new after 19 months. This atrocity was an obvious, grave evil from the beginning. And I can say that because some of us said so at the beginning. Not because we were prophets or geniuses, but because we could hear what was being said and see what was being done. It's really very straightforward. And now, after 19 months of relentless abominations, now the silence begins to break. That even the Financial Times, that even Conservative MPs who were previously Israel supporters have spoken in these terms underlines how this will end. This is one of the great crimes of our age. And some of us knew from the very beginning that this would be one of the great crimes of our age. We took literally what Israeli leaders and officials said. We saw the apocalyptic devastation unleashed by Israel from the very beginning. We saw the war crimes being live streamed every single day. There was no excuse for not knowing. No one can claim ignorance, not anyone with power or influence. And now that silence is beginning to disintegrate as the obscene scale of the crime is impossible to ignore. Well, accountability is going to come. We can be assured of that, but it is up to us to make sure that it does. Please like and subscribe. Leave your thoughts and your comments. Help us take on the pro-genocide media at patreon.com/owners84. Listen to us on the podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. I'll speak to you soon.